First chords on the guitar. We'll start with these three. E, A, and D. To play an E chord, we're going to take the second finger, that's the middle finger, we're going to put it on the second fret of the 5th string. Now, if you just hold this one note and you strum all the strings, it makes a nice sounding chord. That chord's called E minor 7. To add to that, we're going to take the ring finger, that's the 3rd finger on the guitar, and we're going to put it on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. So now we have 2 fingers down. We have the 2nd fret on the 5th string with the 2nd finger, and the 2nd fret on the 4th string with the 3rd finger. If we strum all of these strings now with those 2 notes held down, we have another nice sounding chord. This chord is called E minor. So we had E minor 7 first, which is this one with just the 2nd finger down. And then we have just E minor when we have the 2nd and 3rd finger down on the 2nd fret of the 5th and 4th strings respectively. Now, to play our E chord, also known as E major, we have to add this first finger, the index finger, to the 1st fret on the 3rd string. Now, you might notice that I'm keeping my thumb pretty low down on the neck, like right around the center of the neck. That's generally where you want to keep your thumb so that you can curve your fingers around to get nice access to the frets without touching the strings next to the ones that you're fretting. That's to allow the open strings to sound as well as the strings that you're fretting. So with this, we're going to go through each of the notes one at a time to make sure all of our strings are ringing clearly. We'll start with the 6th string, then the 5th string, then the 4th string, then the 3rd string, then the 2nd string, and then the 1st string. So, if all your notes are ringing clearly, you should get a nice sound in E major chord. Sounds like that. To practice your chords, you want to let go, loosen out your hand a little bit, shake it out if you want, and reshape. Now when you reshape, initially you're going to be trying to position your fingers individually. That's what everybody tries to do in the beginning, and that's okay in the beginning, but keep in mind that your end goal is to be able to just throw the chord on, to move all your fingers at once. That way, if you have to switch chords quickly, you can do it in one simultaneous motion. So to practice your chords again, you're going to let go, and you're going to try and do your best to get all your fingers down at the same time. It might help you after you have the chord shaped. Just lift off a little bit and then put it back down. Lift off a little bit more, put it back down. A little bit more the next time, put it back down. A little bit more the next time, put it back down. And this way, you can practice shaping the chord. That was chord 1, E major. For our next chord, A major or A, they're the same chord. We're going to take our 1st finger and go to the 2nd fret on the 4th string. Sounds like that if you play it. Then your 2nd finger is going to go to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. So now you have 2 fretted notes, 2nd fret on the 4th string with your 1st finger, and 2nd fret on the 3rd string with your 2nd finger. And now we might have to move our 1st and 2nd fingers back a little bit because we're going to get our 3rd finger, the ring finger, also on the 2nd fret on the 2nd string. So we have 3 separate strings all fretted on the 2nd fret. And with this now, we're going to pick 5 strings. So we're picking from the 5th string, we're leaving out the thickest string, and if we pick the 5th string, it'll sound like this. That's an A. Then you pick the 4th string, it should sound like that. Then the 3rd string, should sound like that. Then the 2nd string should sound like that. And then the 1st string, which should sound like that. Now, when you're first learning this chord, a lot of the times what will happen is that your 3rd finger will angle and touch the 1st string, so that'll give you this kind of dead sound where you're not hearing the 1st string ring. If you just angle your fingers a little bit, you can get that 1st string to ring. If you don't get it to ring right away, that's okay. It'll still sound like an A chord, just won't have the high E. So now, for chord practice, we're going to let go of that chord. And then we're going to put the fingers back down just where they were. We're going to strum it again. So we're reshaping now. Now we're going to let go and do the same thing. We'll lift up a little higher this time. And now we'll bring them back down again. And we'll do it a third time. We'll lift up a little higher this time. We'll bring the fingers back down. And for the fourth time rather, we're going to lift off and we're going to totally let go and shake out our hand. And we're going to go back down now, trying to shape that chord with those 3 fingers, dropping them all at the same time. Next step in our practice, we're going to go back to the first chord that we had. So if you watch the motion of my hand as I go back to the E chord, I move my second and third fingers together over one string. Then my first finger is going to come down on the first fret of the third string. And this is now our E chord again. Should sound like that. If you're still shaping it, that's okay. Let's strum it one more time for you here. Now we're going to let go of that chord and we're going to go back to an A chord. So you should start shaping an A chord now with your first 3 fingers on the second fret of the second, third, and fourth strings like that. Should sound like that. If you're still shaping it, I'll give you a moment to continue to shape it. And once you feel like you have it, go ahead and strum it. And then let go. And we're going to go back to your E chord. So this is the type of practice that will help you in your chord changes. Just going through the motion, back and forth between your E and your A in this case. It's a good idea at this point for you to stop the video and take a moment to just go back and forth between those chords. Take as long as you need to so that you feel comfortable with those movements. Once you feel comfortable with those movements, we're going to learn a third chord now, your D chord. It looks and sounds like that. I'm going to show you step by step now. So your index finger, the first finger, is going to go to the first fret on your third string. This is an A note. It sounds like that. Next, our third finger, the ring finger, is actually going to go to the third fret on the second string. So we're skipping the middle finger. The middle finger's not doing anything just yet. That note that you're fretting on the third fret of the second string is a D note. Should sound like this. So you've got 2 notes fretted so far, A and D. And now that second finger that you weren't doing anything with is going to come down on the second fret of the first string. So you've got 2 separate strings fretted at the second fret, the third string and the first string. And then in between them you have the third fret on the second string. So your chord now is going to have those 3 notes that you're fretting plus the 4th string open. So only 4 strings for this chord, for your D chord. There's your D chord. Let's let go of the chord. And now we're going to reshape the chord. So we're going to try and put the fingers back down simultaneously, or as simultaneously as we can. And strum through the strings. Now something that often happens with this D chord when people are first learning it is that the third finger winds up angling like this and blocking the first string. You want to make sure that you're curving your third finger so that that last segment of your third finger is coming straight down onto the neck like a telephone pole would be coming into the ground. That way you allow the strings on either side to ring clearly. So one more time, let's strum our D chord. And now we're going to let go once again. Shake out a little bit if you want to, give your hand a little rest. And we'll come back up into that D chord one more time. Now just like we did with the E and the A chord, it's a good idea for you to try and go back and forth between those chords. So at this point, let's try going back to our A chord. Now there's something that can make that transition a little easier for us. It's called a guide finger. A guide finger is a finger that stays on the same string, kind of like a train on a track. In this case, our third finger is going to be our guide finger. It's going to stay on this second string when we go to our A chord. So we're going to lift fingers 1 and 2. We're going to bring that third finger to the second fret on that same string. It never leaves that second string. And then we're going to place fingers 1 and 2 together on the second fret of the middle 2 strings so that we have our A chord again. And now let's hear that. We'll go string by string. That's pretty good. I'll give you another moment if you're still shaping it. Now we're going to practice going back to our D chord that we just left. So we'll lift up fingers 1 and 2, and we'll slide that third finger, using it as a guide finger, back up to the 3rd fret. Fingers 1 and 2 are going to come to the 2nd fret of strings 3 and 1 respectively. They go basically right around where your 3rd finger is. So let's hear this one. Should sound like that. I'll give you a moment to continue shaping it, and once you do, you should pick through the strings like that individually so you can make sure all your strings are ringing clearly. Once again, let's go back to our A chord. So we're going to lift up fingers 1 and 2, bring the 3rd finger back down to the 2nd fret, and bring fingers 1 and 2 down onto the 2nd fret of the middle 2 strings. So there you have your D and your A, going back and forth between them. To get to our E chord, we have to lift everything again and go back with the 2nd and 3rd fingers on the 2nd fret of the 5th string and 4th string. So notice how these 2 fingers have a tendency to stay together. You can kind of group fingers together when you're playing chords to make the changes more easy to remember. So then your 1st finger comes over here to your 1st fret on your 3rd string, and this is our E chord. So at this point you should try and practice, stop the video, try and practice going through all these different chords from E to A, E to D, D to A, D to E, and A to D, and A to E. Any combination of them that you can think of, you should practice. So once you feel comfortable going to all of them and you feel like you can go to them without too much hesitation, we're ready to learn our song with this set of 3 chords. So for this song, we're going to strum the E chord and we're going to let it ring for 4 beats, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. In that amount of time, we're going to switch to our A chord. When we get to the A chord, we're going to try and get back to the E chord within 4 beats of time again. So I'm going to set up a metronome. I'm going to make it a little bit faster than 60 beats per minute, maybe 70 beats per minute, just for the sake of this particular song. So here we are on our E. I'll give you a 4 count to start, and we're just going to go back and forth between E and A, 4 beats each. It's okay if you lift off of the chord to start positioning the next one before the 4 beats is over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Strum the E. 2, 3, 4. Strum the A. 2, 3, 4. Strum the E. 2, 3, 4. Strum the A. Keep going just like that through the song. 3, 4. Something happening in here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I've got to beware. 2, 3. I think it's time we stop. Appropriately, we are going to stop at this point because we're at the next part in the song. The next part in the song is a little trickier because you go from E for only 2 beats over to your D chord. And for this we have to lift everything off to come over to this D chord. So here's our D chord again to recap it. It's 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. That's your D shape, and you're going to strum only 4 strings, just the thinnest 4. So for this next part in the song, you want to come from your E, 2 beats, over to your D. Now if you can't quite make that change fast enough yet, now's a good time to stop the video, practice that change until you feel comfortable going between those 2 chords in that amount of time. Once you feel comfortable doing that, you can learn the next change, which after we hold this D for 2 beats, we're going to go to our A chord. We talked about the change from D to A before. We lift fingers 1 and 2, and we use the third finger to guide us down to the 2nd fret on the same string. Bring fingers 1 and 2 down on the 2nd fret of the middle 2 strings. We strum this chord A. This one lasts for 4 beats. So that part in the tune then goes from an E for 2 beats over to a D for 2 beats and back to our A for 4 beats. 2, 3, 4. After that, we just go back to the original part, which was E for 4 beats, 3, 4, and then A for 4 beats. 2, 3, 4. So let's go back to that new part that we just learned, where it goes from E over to D, and then back to A. I'll show you what it sounds like with the words. I'm going to set up the metronome here so it keeps our tempo steady, and I'll slow it down a little bit actually, since this is a bit of a harder transition. We'll go back to 60 beats per minute. So ready? I'll give you a 4 count. We're going to start on our E chord, and we're going to go through that new part now, the chorus part. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop, hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. E, 2, 3, 4. Back to A. 2, 3, 4. Back to E. 2, 3, 4, and the A. We're just going between these 2 chords over and over. 3, 4. This battle line's being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. 3, 4. Young people speak in their minds, getting so much resistance. Get ready for the chorus. From behind, here it comes. Time will stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Back to the E for 4, 3, 4. To the A. 2, 3, 4. Back to the E. 2, 3, 4. To the A. 2, 3, 4. Keep going. What a field day for the heat. 1,000 people in the street, singing songs and carrying signs, mostly say hooray for our side. Get ready for the chorus, here it comes. Think it's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. 2, 3, going back to our A now. A, 2, 3, 4, back to the E. 2, 3, 4, to the A. 2, keep going with those chords. Paranoia strikes deep. Sit into your life, it will creep. 3, 4. Out of line, the man come and take you away. To the chorus. Think it's time we E. Stop. To the D. Hey, what's that sound? Back to A. Everybody look what's go. We're gonna repeat the chorus now. E again. Hey, to the D. What's that sound? A again. Everybody look what's. We're gonna repeat the chorus again. Down. Stop. You're repeating the chorus. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. One last. Stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. And you can give a little delay on that last A, the 4th time you play the chorus in a row, and you resolve back on your E chord. Congratulations on your first song with Chords. I hope this video was helpful, and please, if you have any questions or any songs you'd like me to do in future videos, feel free to mention them in the comments below. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Bye now.